to talk to you about is the DataRes project and also an affiliated project, the iCamp project, both of which were funded by two paired grants from the Institute of Museum and Library Services in the United States to investigate the current status in the United States of research data management, responses and interventions by universities, also how the library and information science profession can best respond to these emerging needs. It is a collaboration between the library system of the University of North Texas and the library school. But my fellow co-PI, Bill Moen, he and I are both co-PIs on both projects. So the project's DataRes took a variety of different methodological approaches to studying this issue. We've done surveys of institutional data management responses, close textual analyses of agency requirements, focus groups with various kinds of agency officials, specialists around the country, and we've engaged community experts from around the country in studying this issue. We will be issuing a report later this year published by the Council of Library and Information Resources in the United States on this topic. The iCamp project also is redesigning the curriculum of the University of North Texas around these new areas of data management, and I'll speak a little bit about both of these, the results of these. Well, first, we started this project with a really intensive analysis. We wanted to first start with the agency requirements themselves. So we used a variety of techniques, both close reading, automated textual analysis, and a lot of other stuff. One of the things we did was word clouds, and that ended up being sort of illuminate the key points that came out of this. We found some things in studying the requirements from the National Institutes of Health, National Endowment for the Humanities, and the National Science Foundation in the United States. First, we were surprised to find a significant variation across these different requirements in terms of how they understood research data management mandates, their emphasis and assertions about these requirements. There was variation across the different disciplinary foci of the different agencies, and it was also very evident the level, the maturity of their expectations in data management was substantive. So what you see in these three word cloud things that are pretty small here, but you can again go to our site, and I'll give you the site in a minute, and look at these in more detail. Top one is National Institutes of Health, in which in the medical profession there's been a long-standing expectation of sharing data and the results of data that is quite prominent in the text of their requirement. In the middle one, the NEH, National Endowment for the Humanities, they're much newer sort of focus of the agency, and there was a lot more focus on understanding data in the humanities and giving some primacy to the understanding of data as a new genre and resource that were coming out of projects funded by the NEH, and that just sort of getting across to people that this was a resource that needed to be managed over a long period of time. There was much less focus, we found, in the statements from the National Science Foundation, probably because, we think for a variety of reasons, they cover a lot of different disciplines. A lot of the specificity about their data management requirements actually come in sub-agency statements that pertain to the different directorates that make up NSF. And it was actually the one biggest word that occurred most frequently in their requirements that we extracted from this, because it overwhelmed everything, was just the agency's name, NSF. And it was sort of asserting that the NSF wanted they were trying to get across that you needed to manage your data. Now, having said all that, in the focus groups that we've had with both researchers and agency officials, we're seeing that there's a high degree of skepticism among many of the research communities as to whether or not these data management requirements or mandates will actually be enforced. And I'll have some more to say about that in just a moment. Okay, so in an institutional policy scan we undertook of the top 200 awardees of both NSF and National Institutes of Health grant awards, we produced a merged set of about 220 different agencies. We were a little surprised at this, and these institutions 82% of them did not have any sort of institutional policy regarding data management, any sort of mandate, any sort of even urging about these things. And given the sort of the prominent nature now of research data management, this was sort of surprising to us. And even in the cases, 38 policies we did find, it was surprising that the policy language was often rather weakly assertive, just sort of noting it, not getting, putting out any sort of real mandate about preserving data over the long haul. We will be, as part of the project, maintaining an index and a data set of all of these, all the known policies that we have come up with in the site for our project is datamanagement.unt.edu. If you go under policies, that's where that data set will be made available starting next month. Some of the other things I'll briefly review in the survey of individuals. Not surprising, most individuals were not aware of any policy in their institution, and surprisingly, 19% of them didn't know whether there was a policy or not in their institution. And given that 87% of our respondents said that it was very important for data management to be undertaken long-term, we were sort of surprised by this finding as well. This chart has too much detail to go through, but the only thing I really want to point out is that in institutional support and interventions, the thing that we found overwhelmingly in the different parts of institutions, libraries are the ones that are responding most frequently to this new need, with a close second by the offices of research. The kinds of things they do are a variety of different workshops, assistance in developing research data management plans, and almost to the same degree as IT departments on campuses providing data storage infrastructure and repository infrastructure, perhaps not surprisingly. We are going to do a secondary survey of higher level administrators and close interviews with many of them later this year. We felt like we needed more information from the administrative officials of these institutions to get a better understanding of this trend. We had a number of focus groups of members of the National Science Board and other groups in the United States, and they got so torqued up about this topic that they actually thought that it was important to develop a manifesto about data management, and that led to something that is now being called the Denton Declaration. If you would like to see it and or sign on to it, this is the URL for it. It's at openaccess.unt.edu/Denton_Declaration. It was developed by agency officials and university administrators that attended these sessions from around the country, and it has a lot of prescriptive assertions and value statements concerning the value of maintaining data sets, openly and preserving them for the long haul. So we thought this was a nice sidebar to our project and something that we're trying to make people aware of. So if you are interested in it and would like to sign on to it, you can go to that website. Okay, let me start wrapping up here. The iCamp project was, as I mentioned, a paired project that was around curriculum redesign. Some of the things it did was a detailed analysis of 110 job advertisements that were collected and then used to, once they were decomposed, we identified a whole series of competencies being required for data management positions around the country. And it led to our development. We used that competency analysis to develop a new core curriculum of 4 courses in our IS program that are being taught for the first time this year, and we will have better results, more findings about how it went by the end of the year. We are utilizing in this effort what we're calling a teaching library model, and we are interested in trying this out as an alternative, as sort of emulating the teaching hospital model that's used in the education of medical professionals, whereby, because so many of these things are emerging practices that happen, among practitioners on the job, we're having the students that go through this curriculum also do pretty intensive internship activities in, actual real-world digital library operations on managing data. And we, again, are interested in seeing how this will turn out and if this is a successful new model. Okay, so a couple of final slides on our key findings. First, we are observing a major disconnect between the assertions of importance about research data management by both agencies and individuals in all cases, and the actual practice, the actual implementation of research data management activities and policies at the institutional level. There is going to need, we think, to be much more prescriptive guidance and requirements from the agencies to actually encourage disciplines to take RDM requirements seriously, especially in evaluating funding proposals on review boards that award the grants in the first place. Until the disciplines actually understand research data management as something that's going to advance their research agendas, it's hard to see that, when they will actually be implemented very rigorously. New competencies that are requested for these positions are indeed, as we looked at them, pretty significantly different from the past requirements. And a concern that I've got is, while the curricula can be redesigned, it's very difficult to find and recruit qualified instructors for this updated curriculum. Where are we going to get the instructors to train our new generation of research data managers? Finally, the interesting finding we discovered was, perhaps not surprisingly in retrospect, the institution-level policies are driven by practice and not the other way around. What we see is that once the practices have arisen and been implemented in the institutions, then the institution will understand it as something they need to take seriously and put together as an institutional policy at the university level. It is not a single departmental issue. All the different parts of the institution have to work together, the offices of research, the libraries, the IT groups, the faculty, and it is certainly not the purview of any one of those groups. Finally, collaboration and domain knowledge and infrastructure are all very key to the success of RDM responses, and we are highlighting that in the monograph that's coming out of the